Did you know that there are over 7,000 languages spoken worldwide, and some of them are truly bizarre? I mean, we have all got used to the idea that languages are about words, grammar, maybe a few interesting sounds. But some languages take things to a whole new level. Today we'll explore some of the weirdest languages that break all the rules you thought you knew about communication. Some use clicks instead of consonants, others have no words for numbers, and some even use whistles to hold entire conversations across valleys. Get ready for some serious linguistic mind-blowing, because we're diving headfirst into the wonderfully strange world of languages you never knew existed. Let's start with a real head-scratcher, the Pirahã language. Spoken by an indigenous tribe in the Amazon rainforest, Pirahã has baffled linguists for decades. Why? Because it seems to lack some of the fundamental building blocks we associate with language itself. First up, numbers, or rather the lack thereof. The Pirahã don't have specific words for numbers like 1, 2, or 100. Instead, they rely on vague terms like few, some, and many. Imagine trying to do math with that. This absence of precise counting words has led some researchers to believe that the Pirahã might think about quantities differently than those who use more numerical systems. It's not just numbers, though. Pirahã also seems to lack specific color terms beyond light and dark, and they don't have fixed words for directions or time. It challenges the idea that all languages need certain features to be considered, well, languages. The Pirahã show us that communication can be incredibly diverse and that our ways of perceiving and describing the world aren't necessarily universal. Next, let's travel to South Africa, where things get a little clicky. Xhosa, a Bantu language with millions of speakers, is famous for its extensive use of click consonants. These aren't just your average everyday clicks. We're talking about sounds made with your tongue, teeth, and palate that form a core part of the language's sound system. Imagine trying to say Xhosa itself. It starts with a lateral click made by sucking your tongue from the side of your mouth. There are dental clicks, alveolar clicks made by pressing your tongue against your alveolar ridge, and even post-alveolar clicks. In total, Xhosa uses over 15 distinct click sounds, each with its own meaning and pronunciation. It's a language that truly challenges your tongue and your understanding of what a spoken consonant can be. Now let's talk about time, or rather how languages can mess with our perception of it. In Aymara, an indigenous language spoken in the Andes, the future isn't something that lies ahead of you, it's something behind you. Yes, you heard that right. The Aymara people reason that the past is what we can see. It's known and visible, like something in front of us. The future, on the other hand, is unknown and unseen, so it's conceptually behind us. This might seem counterintuitive to speakers of languages like English, where we use phrases like looking forward to the future and putting the past behind us. But for the Aymara, it's the opposite. It's a fascinating example of how languages can embody different cultural perspectives, and how even something as fundamental as our understanding of time can be shaped by the languages we speak. Chapter 4: The Art of Saying More with Less. What if you had to express complex ideas with just a handful of words? That's the challenge and the beauty of Toki Pona, a minimalist constructed language with only around 120 to 137 words. Created by a Canadian linguist, Toki Pona aims to simplify communication and focus on essential concepts. With such a limited vocabulary, speakers need to be creative and combine words in ingenious ways to convey their thoughts. For example, sunoni literally translates to sun water, but it's used to mean juice, drawing a metaphorical connection between the sun's energy and the liquid's life-giving properties. Toki Pona isn't just about linguistic minimalism, it's also seen as a way to promote mindfulness and appreciation for the present moment. By stripping away unnecessary complexity, Toki Pona encourages us to focus on the essence of communication and the interconnectedness of ideas. Chapter 5: Whistling Your Conversations. Imagine holding entire conversations without uttering a single word. That's the reality for speakers of Silbo Gomero, a whistling language used on the Canary Island of La Gomera. This isn't just whistling to get someone's attention. Silbo Gomero is a fully developed language, capable of conveying the same range of thoughts and ideas as spoken Spanish. It evolved as a way for shepherds and farmers to communicate across the island's deep ravines and valleys. A whistled message can travel much farther than a shouted one. To the untrained ear, it sounds like birdsong, but to a Silbo Gomero speaker, it's a rich tapestry of tones, pitches, and melodies. The whistles mimic the sounds of spoken Spanish, with different pitches representing different vowels and consonants. Silbo Gomero is a testament to human ingenuity and the power of language to adapt to even the most challenging environments. Chapter 6. The language saved from extinction, almost. Language extinction is a serious issue, but sometimes the stories behind these disappearing languages are as fascinating as the languages themselves. Take Ayapaneco, an indigenous language spoken in Mexico. By the early 21st century, it was down to its last two fluent speakers, who, by a strange twist of fate, refused to speak to each other. The reasons for their feud remain shrouded in local law, but the result was that Ayapaneco was on the brink of vanishing forever. Thankfully, efforts were made to document and revitalize the language. Linguists worked with the two remaining speakers, Manuel Segovia and Isidro Velázquez, to record their knowledge and create learning materials. While both men have since passed away, their legacy lives on. Ayapaneco now has a growing number of new speakers, ensuring that this unique piece of linguistic history will survive for generations to come. Chapter 7. We've talked about languages with no numbers and languages with click consonants. But what about a language with just 12 distinct sounds? That's Rotokas, spoken in Papua New Guinea, holding the title of one of the world's simplest phonological systems. To put that into perspective, English has around 44 phonemes, the individual sounds that make up a language. Rotokas gets by with a mere 12, meaning its alphabet consists of just 12 letters. This simplicity doesn't mean Rotokas is any less expressive, though. Speakers have developed ingenious ways to convey meaning using tone, intonation, and context. It just goes to show that linguistic complexity comes in many forms, and sometimes less is more. Chapter 8. From sci-fi to reality, the Case of Klingon. Most languages evolve naturally over centuries, but some are intentionally created. Klingon, the guttural language spoken by the warrior race in Star Trek, is a prime example. What started as a few harsh words and phrases invented for a science fiction show has become a fully fledged language spoken by thousands of people worldwide. Created by linguist Mark Okrand, Klingon has its own grammar, syntax, and ever-expanding vocabulary. Fans have embraced the language, translating works of literature, writing original poetry, and even holding Klingon language conferences. It's a testament to the power of fandom and the enduring appeal of language creation. Klingon shows that languages don't need centuries of history to capture the imagination. Sometimes all it takes is a passionate community and a shared love for a fictional universe. Chapter 9. Where your tone changes everything. Imagine a language where the pitch of your voice determines the meaning of a word. That's the reality for speakers of Chalcatongo Mixtec, a tonal language spoken in Mexico. In tonal languages, the same syllable can have completely different meanings depending on whether it's spoken in a high, mid, or low tone. Chalcatongo Mixtec takes this to an extreme, with some estimates suggesting it has as many as 16 distinct tones. It's like having 16 different versions of the musical scale, all used to convey subtle shades of meaning within a single conversation. Mastering these tonal nuances is essential for understanding and being understood in Chalcatongo Mixtec. It's a language that forces you to pay close attention to the music of speech, where a slight shift in pitch can make all the difference. Chapter 10. The Untouched Language. Some languages are mysteries hidden away from the world. Sentinelese, spoken by the Sentinelese people of North Sentinel Island in the Indian Ocean, is perhaps the most isolated and least understood language on Earth. The Sentinelese people have lived in near total isolation for centuries, fiercely defending their territory and way of life from any outside contact. As a result, virtually nothing is known about their language. Linguists have made tentative attempts to study Sentinelese from a distance, but it remains largely undeciphered. We don't know its grammar, its vocabulary, or even what language family it might belong to. It's a stark reminder that, despite our interconnected world, there are still pockets of linguistic diversity that remain untouched and unknown. To the wonderful world of weird languages. So there you have it, a whirlwind tour of some of the world's weirdest and most unique languages. From clicks and whistles to languages with no numbers, we've seen how diverse and innovative human communication can be. Languages are not just tools for communication, they're reflections of culture, thought, and even how we see the world. They shape our understanding of time, quantity, and even the very sounds we use to express ourselves. From the Amazon rainforest to the islands of the Pacific, these languages remind us that there's still so much more to explore and understand about the human capacity for language. Which weird language fascinated you the most? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more mind-blowing facts.